So let me hear you. Good and loud. All right, Gary. On 1. On 2. On 3. Take me out to the...
The Monday Morning Quarterback on the 22nd of October 2018, beaming to you from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. As we normally do, we are broadcasting from the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. We are now getting closer to the midterm election, and we'll be talking about it. We'll be looking at some prognostication from Charlie Cook and company at the Cook Reports. The latest polls. Will also look at the New York Times effort here as they move along. And, of course, the World Series starts in Fenway Park on Tuesday. The Red Sox will entertain the Los Angeles Dodgers. And Dave Roberts, who used to be a bench player for the Red Sox. We'll get to those stories from two different standpoints. The Red Sox and their key players. We got into this with the debate between Senator Warren and the Republican candidate that's taking her on. I believe that is, who is he? Godfrey Dill. Almost forgot his name. Nonetheless, that is a 24-point race favoring Senator Warren by the polling that we've seen. We'll go with some polling here. We'll start with today. We'll get the part out of the way, as one would say. Out of the state of Minnesota, we have a Star Tribune. That's a Mason-Dixon poll. Not one of the greatest out there. But nonetheless, this is the Senate campaign for the junior senator Smith versus Housley. Smith is ahead by 6 points, according to this one. The other Senate race, it's unusual to have two at the same time, but we have Amy Klobuchar and Neuberger. Amy Klobuchar is ahead by 23 points. And a New York Times poll out of Florida, Donna Shalea, who used to be the head of the California system and also was in the health and services under Bill Clinton. She is running in Florida 27th. She's ahead by 7 points in nominal points. On a Sunday, some more races here. A CNN poll. We'll be getting more and more of these. This is out of Florida also. Has Bill Nelson up by 5 points over the current Governor Scott. And out of Missouri, this is Missouri's Scout poll, has Hockley up by 1 over Claire McCaskill, 47-46. In other words, many of these elections are going to be turnout elections. CNN is much more charitable in the governor's race. Andrew Gillum and DeSantis has Gillum up by 12. Is this an outliner or not? We're not certain about that. A little different situation here. And back to a Star Tribune poll. This is for the governor race in Minnesota. Has Waltz up by 6 over Johnson. Very close race there. Very similar at this point to previous races involving the current governor, Mark Dayton. So many of these races are going to turn on turnout, literally on turnout. And we have, let's see, Talk Business. It's got to be out of Arkansas. What is this? The 2nd District. Hill up by 12 points there over Tucker. And then we have the approval rating. This was on a Sunday from ABC News and the Wall Street Journal, or NBC News, excuse me, and the Wall Street Journal. The approval rating of DJ Trump at 45, and the generic ballot at 9 for the Democrats. That was on Sunday. On a Saturday, we have out of Arizona, Senator versus McSally. McSally up by 2, according to this poll. And then, let's see, we also have Florida 15. It's tied up between Carlson and Spano. We have another New York Times poll. This is the 8th District of Pennsylvania, caught right up by 12. I guess we'll do the Friday polls here. A lot of polls. The Pan-Atlantic poll, that is out of Maine. King is up by 27. I guess we can, all the polling we've seen, call that for King. He's an independent. In the Maine governor's race, let's see, who do we have? Mills is up by 8 over Moody. In New Hampshire, Sununu is up by 11 in New Hampshire. That is a University of New Hampshire poll. And in the Michigan, the 11th District of Michigan, there's a tie there between Stevens and Epstein. This is a Target Insight poll, a Michigan poll also. Another Michigan poll has Bishop up by 3. That is a Congressional District 8. The Maine's 2nd District, another Pan-Atlantic poll, has it tied between Golden and Panquist. In the state of West Virginia, Miller is up by 5. That's West Virginia 3. Maine, the 2nd District, well, this is a different poll. New York Times poll has it tied. Now, the other poll out of Maine was, let's see, we literally have more than one Pan-Atlantic poll. Oh, they also have a tie between Panquist and Golden. Anyway, out of Jersey, 11. Let's see. Sherrill is up by 11 points there. Pennsylvania 7th District has Weil and Norstead. Weil is up by 7 there. And some more approval ratings. CBS has, this was on Friday, DJ Trump at 42. And I guess we can do the Vanderbilt poll here on Thursday. This is as far as we'll go. Is a Vanderbilt University poll. We've cited this before. Breezen is the former governor, up by 1 in the margin of error. This could turn very well into a turnout election. Not certain about that one. Feinstein is up by 13. That's in California. Menendez is up by 9. That is in Jersey. He's a senator in Jersey. Gillibrand up by 25. She's a senator in New York. In Kansas, 3. Davis is up by 9 in Kansas. Colorado, 5, is it? Looks like 5. Is up by, Crow is up by 9. And Carlson Spano, again, is tied. This is a Bay News Survey USA. Hadn't seen much from old Survey USA yet, but we can expect a slew of polls flying out here during the this important race. Now, from the New York Times, we have a lot of real-time polls here coming out of the New York Times, and we'll They've had over 2 million calls so far, and this is some current now. The dates on some of these polls be a little bit different here, and Illinois 12, that's Boose and Kelly. Boose is up by, Bose is up by 7 points, and they're 11% undecided. Virginia 5, that's between Cockburn and Riggleman. Cockburn is up by 1 point. California 39, Kim and Ciceros up by 2-6 undecided, far less there. And some of these are quite early polls here. Florida 15, not sure when this poll, this poll was on the 18th. Spano and Carlson are tied. It's the same. We got the same difference there. Pennsylvania 8, that's Cartwright. They have it 52-40 for Chimon. Jersey 11. Sherrill up 49-38 over Weber. Florida 27, basically about the same thing. Donna Shalala 44-36. Their poll was on the 15th. California Senate poll, I think we've already given this in 48-42. Senator 46, and McSally 42. This has went back and forth and back and forth. Trying to get some new races here we've not seen. Most of these we have seen. Virginia 10. This is a Comstock, Barbara Comstock. Waxton is ahead by 7 points, 48-41 there. The race that the Democratic Congressional Committee has pulled out of, that's Minnesota 8, unfortunately. Stuber 49-34 over Rigdenovich. Hopefully pronounced his name correctly. Pennsylvania 1, that is, it was October 14th. Some of the older polls here coming out. We're not getting that. This was an older poll here, the Tennessee Senate race. This was the one that they had Blackburn up by 14. That race has since tightened up. That was on the 11th of October. The same goes for the Senate race in Texas, 51-43 for Beano O'Rourke. That is lying Ted there, old lying Ted. That race is getting a little bit tighter there. We'll continue to watch that particular race, and I guess that's all we basically have on the real-time part here. So we'll abandon the real-time, and where will we go next? And in a very interesting race here in Virginia. This is Abigail Spangenberger versus Brett. And we found this on Twitter, and appreciative there from Miss Cruz, the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, for posting it. And we have the audio here. And I'm just wondering if we just play this.
My name is Abigail Spanberger, and I'm running for Congress in Virginia's 7th Congressional District. I've never run for office before, and I decided to run for office the day of the House Healthcare vote. I've been considering it for many, many months, but as a former intelligence officer watching Congress vote on a bill without really understanding or accepting or discussing the profound impact that decision would have had on so many Americans was the motivation for me to run.
We got this in here, but there is a number one here involving Ms. Spangenberg that we originally brought forward here, and this was from Ms. Cruz. And I can't find that. I may have to just put it on here and go with it. And I don't see the one from Miss Cruz here, but I suppose we'll just put it into the broadcast. And and go with it, and we'll just maybe I can find it here where Ms. Spangenberg presented her case. And sometimes when you're looking for something like this, you don't find it. But Mia Cruz, Leslie Cruz, Mia of San Juan, retweeted this, and if you're trying to find something, you usually don't find it. But this was just a debate between her and Brett, and she clearly notes that her name is Abigail Spangenberg, and that is where she was standing in this situation, and we're just not going to find what we're looking for here on our Twitter feed. Anyway, nonetheless, we'll get back to it later on to where are we going next here? Charlie Cook, I believe, is where we're going. We'll get that here at Charlie Cook, and this is by David Wasserman, 9 kind of races that will decide the fate of the house. 18 days to go, and this is on the 19th of August. Roughly a sixth of America will decide the House race. As of Friday, the Cook Report rates 75, and this is 435 seats as vulnerable to a takeover. It's a lopsided list. 70 are held by Republicans, and 5 are held by Democrats. Democrats only need to net 23 seats. 23 is a magical number out of 75. National polls suggest Democratic enthusiasm advantage has narrowed in the wake of the Kavanaugh confirmation, known as the Kavanaugh bump. A month ago, Democrats' gain of 20 to 45 seats appeared possible. The past month hasn't necessarily lowered the floor or the baseline, what do you want to call it, but it may have lowered their ceiling by limiting their ability to drive their gains deep into so-called Trump country. At the moment, Democrats could gain anywhere from 20, which will not do them any good, to 40 seats within a 25 to 35 seat gain more likely. Identically, 9 rates will decide the House's fate. The battleground has expanded since August and spans many different slices of America, from the suburbs of Los Angeles to the coal fields of Southern Virginia. Most Democratic incumbents are in excellent shape. They are sure to lose the 14th. That was where Connor Lamb, that district has been redone, and they do mention in rural Minnesota, 2 districts are there. And these are open. This is where the governor's race, they moved that to a toss-up. That is Minnesota 1. Minnesota 8, the Democratic Congressional Committee has moved out of it. That used to be, or is at the time, Congressman Nolan. Trump carried the district, but Nolan won re-election by 1,000 or so votes. Nevada 3, that leans Democrat. That was Rosen's old seat. She's running for the Senate in the state of Nevada. And number 1 in Nevada 4 leans Democrat also, and the Lamb seat, the old Lamb seat, he's in a new district now. Republican in Suburbs won by Clinton in 2016. I don't like the designation that much, but these go from Orange County, California, to the suburbs of Chicago, Dallas, and Kansas City. Barbara Comstock, we talked about that, is likely to lose, which would be good riddance to her. Mimi Waters, she's in California. That's 45, is a toss-up there. Dana Rockenbacher, another toss-up, that's a 48. Kaufman leans Democrat, that's in Colorado. Ruskin there in Illinois, 6. Kansas Free, we talked about Kansas Free. Kevin Yoder is a Republican there. Not familiar with Kevin Yoder, but it leans a Democrat in Kansas. Eric Paulson in Minnesota Free, that leans Democrat. Lance in Jersey 7. PA 1, that's a toss-up, that's in Pennsylvania. And in Texas, Pete Sessions, that's been a toss-up before. Don't hold your breath. And Barbara Comstock there. GOP open seats won by Clinton. The red X's, blue wave is a red X's. There are 41 vacant there. In other words, Republicans who have retired. The most since 1930. History is working against Republicans since 1992 in situations where a president's party, don't put as much stock in that, was defending open seats. 2 years ago, the president failed to carry it. That party had battle 0 for 23 seats. A little bit different. That was a Barack Obama effect there. Democrats almost guaranteed to pick up Pennsylvania 5-6 districts after the redistricting by the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania. Donna Shalere, who doesn't speak Spanish, will probably need to flip there, nominated, and she's in her 70s now. That is interesting. That's a 76% Hispanic district. Didn't know that. McSally's old, this is in Arizona, leans Democrat. In California, 39. That's a toss-up. That is Royce's old district. It's open. Royce retired. California, 49 leads. That's old Darrell, Carl Alarm, Isa. Florida, 27. Who did that belong to? Ralph Layton. That's a toss-up there. That's in the Miami area of Florida. Pennsylvania, 6. That's vacant. That's like a Democrat. Another open, Costello. That's in Pennsylvania, 6, likely Democrat. And there's a vacant one in PA 7. That was Dent, who retired. Leans Democrat there. GOP seats won by Trump. There are 11 highly vulnerable ones there, including an open seat in Wisconsin that belonged to little Paulie Ryan. So several of those out there, where they stand on this is open. Florida 15 leans Republican. A toss-up in Kansas 2, that was Jenkins. Michigan 14, that's an open seat, leans Democrat. Another toss-up in Pillinger, a likely Democrat. In Jersey, that's an open seat there also. Jersey 11, that leans Democrat. That's an open seat. Feelinghausen, I think is the name there. And in New Mexico 2 is a toss-up there. A lot of toss-ups going on around here. South Carolina, that's Terry Stanford's seat. Not Terry Stanford, whatever Stanford it is these days. Anyway, he lost that seat. Leans Republican. That's in South Carolina. Virginia 5 leans Republican. Washington 1. That's Ryan, leans Republican there. Wisconsin 1. Sorry about that. That's little Paulie Ryan's. West Virginia 3. That's Jenkins, leans Republican there. Republican bellwether suburban areas. Well, those are a little bit different. That is the one that John Oshkosh, anyway, whatever his name was, with Karen Handel, that leads Republican. She's running in that district. Hulligan, it's a toss-up in Illinois, 14. Michigan, 8. That was Mike Bishop, another toss-up there. Jason Lewis, that's Minnesota, 2. Leans Republican there. And Wagner in Missouri, 2. Leans, she's had tight races before. Leans Republican there. And in MEI, I assume that's Nebraska, Don Beacon, leans Republican there. In Jersey, 3, it's a toss-up. And Ohio 1's also a toss-up. Likely Democrat there in Pennsylvania, 17. And Mina Love, that's out in Utah. Utah 4, it's a toss-up. Very interesting out there. Let's see where that is going. Georgia 7 voted for Clinton. Another toss-up, Denham in California is 10. Steve Knight, that's in California, 25. That's a toss-up. Bunch of toss-up races out there. Carlos Cabrillo, he's in Florida, 26. They labeled it a toss-up also. Rob Woodrow, leans Republican, that's Georgia 7. John Coberson, that's a toss-up, that's Texas 7. And Will Hurd, he's far ahead, that's in Texas 23. Some more in Iowa, that's Ron Bloom, leans Democrat. He'd be a good person to get rid of. Illinois 12, Mike Boos, a toss-up there. Pelquist in Maine 2, we've already know that one, that's a toss-up. That's agreed by a number of people. In the New York 14's upstate New York district, that leans Republican. In New York 19, Fesco is a toss-up. And 16, Kelly, that's a Pennsylvania, leans Republican there. The rural-urban divides, I think that's where we'll find our friend Spangenberger. Anyway, nonetheless, leans Republican. It's Arizona 2. French out in Iowa. David Young, that's a toss-up. Illinois, Rodney Davis, Illinois 13, leans Republican. Andy Barr, that's Kentucky district, a toss-up. And in North Carolina, 2, Holding, not sure about that, leans Republican. Another North Carolina 13, Bud, is a toss-up in North Carolina. New York, Kopko leans Republican. It must be upstate New York district there. In Ohio, 12 is a toss-up in Ohio. Pennsylvania, 6. Scott Perry, never heard of him, leans Republican. And John Carter in Texas, 31. Doesn't ring any bells. These are all lean Republican. Out of Washington, 5. That's Caffey, McMorris Rogers, leans Republican there. The self-inflicted wound boys, this Duncan, he's on the indictment, and Chris Collins in New York. In California, they have both been ahead. This is at the Cook Report. Let's see what else we can literally pull from the Cook Report while we are here. Well, in North Carolina, North Dakota Senate race, because of the Native American votes, we've talked about this before. This is Heidi Handicap and Representative Kramer. Become apparent that what matters most is the party affiliation. If that is the case, Heidi Handicap is underwater. Seems the odds over various things. Heidi Handicap, despite the best efforts, it does appear that she could turn it around in another 19 days. Well, that would depend on the native vote there. Real Clear is moving the average. Kramer has 8.7 over advantage over Heidi Camp there, and a lot of that is to the Kavanaugh boost. Kramer's a 4-point lead. That was in mid-June. that has turned around there. Democrats hold out hope that Heidecamp can gain traction and overtake him, but it's hard to see that happening, and no doubt about that. Leans Republican is there, and this is Jennifer Duffy. It will all depend on how things turn out there. And we already, Charlie Cook's a shift in GOP fortunes. We already covered that particular one, so we'll dispense with the Cook report here and look at our time as we move along. And we'll go to sports here. Be quite a bit. World Series of Power Ratings, where all 25 Red Sox place. We won't go over this. We went over it in the debate, but a little bit of commentary here by David D'Orficio, I think, is writing in the Boston Globe. The matchup is set. The Red Sox opponent in their fourth World Series of the past 15 seasons will be the Dodgers, giving baseball an intriguing bi-coastal matchup. The advertisers like that one between two signature franchises. If LA wins, does Dave Roberts have to start buying his own beer in this town? Dave Roberts used to play at one time for the Red Sox. The Red Sox, in a triumphant theft of the most legendary stolen base in Red Sox history, a conquering hero. This was in 2004. Cursebreaker Roberts returns to Fenway Park as the manager of the LA Dodgers, looking to reinstate the era of misfortune that reigned when he arrived in New England earlier that summer. Has since been eradicated by 3 championships and 12-2 World Series record in the wake of this famous swipe. His club certainly has the talent to do it. The all-star capable caliber players coming off the bench. A Hall of Famer ace there, and quality bullpen. That's definitely there. Los Angeles beat Atlanta and Milwaukee, and now come to the other city that hosted the Atlanta franchise, and to find a Boston team that has rolled through 2 other elite squads in the American League playoffs. No doubt they beat a very good Houston Astros team. I won't go over all the names here. Some of those are Brendan Workman, Mr. Eduardo Rodriguez, some of those that Eduardo Nunez, Mitch Moreland, Joe Kelly, Christian Vasquez, Chris Sale, who will actually start be the starting pitcher after having an intestinal problem on Tuesday night. Andrew Benintelli. Game 4 Houston series was a vision of what Boston hoped Benintelli will be the next decade. He delivered 2 doubles, scored twice, helped set the tone, then made the all-time defensive player to seal a victory. Craig Kimbrell, he is the Red Sox closer. Rafael Devers is one of the great players there. If it was not for Mr. Bradley, he would have been the MVP of the American League Championship Series, batting 385, and 767. You can't get any better than that. Mookie Betts, the presumptive AL MVP, hitting just 205. David Price, the man that delivered the quote-unquote bacon home in Game 5. And that was his first playoff victory. Reminds one of John Lester. John Lester used to pitch for the Red Sox also. Better than anything turned in Boston by Curt Schilling. Remember, right-wing Curt Schilling. Rick Porcello, another number here, has an ERA of 4.22. J.D. Martinez. Jackie Bradley Jr., the man that was the MVP of the series. BJ is his name, most valuable player of the American League Series, speaks for itself. Nathan Eovaldi, another one here. In the game, he's a starter. The Sox outscored their opponents 24-3. And that is the Red Sox story from Boston. And now we'll get the L.A. story from Los Angeles. And let's see where we are here. The L.A. story, the same thing. Return to Boston. Dave Roberts with the Dodgers as underdogs in the series. The Dodgers take the field on Tuesday night at Fenway Park, a legendary park. Fresh off discarding an underdog from the Major League Baseball's smallest market park. They are talking about the Brewers of Milwaukee. Consecutive National League pennants. For once, will not open as a favorite in the most explosive roster in 108 wins with the Boston Red Sox, no doubt about it. They are favored by Vegas. The Dodgers, Vegas has decided, are the underdog a year after falling a game short of winning the series. The Astros won that series last year. They will feature three-side Young Award winners, Mr. Clayton Kershaw, Boston's David Price, and Rick Porcello. And Mookie Betts, MVP, a top candidate to be MVP in Boston outfield, Mookie Betts. Return of villain to Boston is shortstop Matty Machado. Matty Machado, of course, comes out of Camden Yard in Baltimore. And there is Dave Roberts, who played in Red Sox history. We just talked about that before the Red Sox ended their supposed curse of the Bambino, before Boston became synonymous with championships, before Roberts became a New England folk hero. He was a bench player for the Red Sox against the Yankees in 2004 American League Championship. He has been sent from the Dodgers to the Sox. He stole second base in the ninth inning of Game 4 before scoring to tie 4-4, keeping the Red Sox, who won 6-4 in the 12th inning. Remember that one? On President, comeback from 3 games to none, a deficit in the American League Championship Series. That year, they swept the St. Louis Cardinals in the first title since 1918. Roberts returns, seeking to end the 30-year drought for the LA Dodgers. I look forward to going back to Fenway, Roberts said. Obviously, for me, it's personal. I have a lot of fond memories of the Red Sox and, of course, Fenway Park, a legendary park. So Mr. Kershaw will be getting the ball in Game 1. Logical there. Mr. Ryu will follow by Walker Buehler. He is a rookie, outstanding pitcher, and Rick Hill. Red Sox will counter with Charlie Sale in Game 1, and Alex Cora hasn't talked about his lineup. So we'll be, as they say, waiting to see. And we already covered the ID controversy in the state of North Dakota. We're kind of running back and forth here. North Dakota is home to one of the most important Senate races, no doubt about that, between Kramer and Heidi Heitkamp. Supreme Court allowed on October 9th a new state voter identity requirement to take effect, meaning North Dakota will be voting under different rules than in the primary just a few months ago. The change disproportionately affects Native Americans and Aboriginals. In a recent letter to the North Dakota Secretary of State, one group called the current state process unworkable and proposed a solution that the Secretary of State would not endorse. An extraordinary situation. The electoral process is thrown into chaos at the last minute and will help decide who controls the Senate. The stakes couldn't be much larger. This is the Heidi can't race there. This is a state that DJ Trump won by 36 points. She's behind him in the polls, and if turnout is low amongst Aboriginals, she is toast, no doubt about that. They helped elect her in 2012. That's where the new law comes in on the requirements the Supreme Court just allowed to take effect. North Dakotans can't vote unless they have identification that shows their name, birth date, and residential address. Natives use P.O. boxes. Native Americans are about 5% of the North Dakota's 750,000 residents. That's pretty substantial. The district court ruled that about 5,000 Native Americans did not have the necessary identification, and about 2,300 of that number also lacked supplemental documents. In 2012, Heidi Camp, won by less than 3,000 votes. So this is in a letter to tribal leaders. The Secretary of State wrote that any voter without a residential address could contact their county's 9/11 coordinator to try the location of their house and quickly, at no cost, be assigned an address that could coordinate. We talked about this before. The voters could either use the letter to obtain a new ID presented at the polls alongside an ID card. Still, the number of people affected and the fact that the election is so soon creates an enormous logistics project. And they do talk about 4 directions that came up with its own plan. A letter to Secretary of State Al Jaggers. It suggested that tribal officials would be stationed at each voting location on the reservations, and they would use established addressing systems for rural areas to assign residential addresses on the spot. This is Oliver and Barbara Siemens, executive directors of 4 Dimensions. We've covered that before. Wrote that they believe Jaggers has no authority to prevent the tribal government from implementing this plan because tribal governments obviously have a sovereignty. Mr. Jaggers declined. It is inappropriate for me to do so because it's a legal question that is beyond the authority of this office as to whether a sovereign tribe has the power within their jurisdiction, he wrote in response to the letter that was provided to the New York Times. This has kind of changed some. This could be thrown back into court, and this is where a conservative court plays into the situation, unfortunate situation there. Now let's get to the sport. We have quite a bit of sport to get to. We have exhausted the World Series, and so we'll go to college ball, I guess is where we'll go first to get the scores there. And we'll start off, I think these with week 8 of the top 25. Bama 58 to 21 over Tennessee. Ohio State was beaten by Purdue. The Boilermakers 49 to 20. Clemson beat North Carolina and really beat them badly, 41 to 7. Mississippi State and LSU 19 to 3. Michigan number 6 and Michigan State lost 21 to 7. Sorry about that, Diane. Minnesota and TCU, Oklahoma and TCU, 52 to 27. UFC over East Carolina 37-10. Oregon, the Ducks of Oregon and Washington State. Washington State 34-20 over the Ducks. Vanderbilt and Kentucky 14-7. Washington, the University of Washington 27-13 over Colorado. Penn State, they are back 33-28 over Indiana. Maryland and Iowa. Iowa shut out Maryland 23-0. Cincinnati in overtime and Temple 24-17. Temple and UConn in South Florida. South Florida 38-30. Illinois and Wisconsin. It was Wisconsin 49-20. And that is that. And let's see, what else do we have going here? The NBA. The NBA has officially started. Don't leave anyone out here. The Hawks and Cavaliers of Cleveland. Hawks 133-111. The Kings and Thunder. Kings 131-120. The Warriors and Nuggets of Denver. Denver 100 and Nuggets 98. And the Rockets and Clippers of Los Angeles. Clippers 115-112. And that does it for the NBA. And this will do it for us from the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. Jerry would never forgive us there. And we always remember him on the Monday Morning Quarterback. A great partner, late Jerry Pippin. And we'll have a flash from the past from Jerry Pippin talking about a midterm election, I believe was 2012. And that will do it. Have a good week, everyone.
Look at blue states. Can I finish the question? If you vote for Abigail Spanberger, the result will be Nancy Pelosi liberal policies across the board on every single issue.
I question again whether Congressman Brat knows which Democrat, in fact, he's running against. I am not Nancy Pelosi, and I am not President Barack Obama. I am a woman who grew up in Henrico County, who grew up in this community, who was taught service, hard work, and a commitment to the belief that the American people can be anything, and we will lead the way in this world. It is absolutely hypocritical that we would have someone stand on stage, talk about fiscal responsibility after adding $1.9 trillion to the deficit, after voting against hurricane relief, after voting against the omnibus bill, after voting against budget after budget because he didn't want to add to the deficit. However, when it came time to give $42 billion in tax breaks to pharmaceutical companies, there he was. I want to serve this community. It's the community that made me who I am, and I ask for your vote on November the 6th. Abigail Spanberger is my name.